Tuesday, June 28th, 2005. Deep within the hostile territory of the Hindu Kush Mountains of Afghanistan, a four-man SEAL team conducting a reconnaissance mission quickly find themselves outgunned in the middle of an ambush. With nowhere to go, the men fall back, throwing themselves over the edge of the steep and jagged mountainside. And after an hours-long firefight, the men would deplete their ammo in a fight to the death. Following the initial invasion of Afghanistan, in 2001, the focus of U.S. military and coalition partner operations shifted from kinetic activities to counterinsurgency efforts. By 2004, one of the primary objectives of the coalition in Afghanistan was nation building. This involved creating a secure environment that would support the establishment and growth of a democratically elected government, along with providing essential infrastructure support. A crucial milestone in this undertaking occurred on September 18, 2005, with the Afghan national parliamentary elections. Despite many provinces in Afghanistan having stable security conditions, the Kunar Province in eastern Afghanistan, situated on the border of Pakistan, remained particularly turbulent, and the legitimacy of election results hinged on all elections across the country proceeding unencumbered, meaning free from external influence by either American, coalition forces, and anti-American and coalition forces. At this time, insurgent activity in Kunar Province emanated from 23 identified groups, some with loose affiliations to the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, while others were predominantly local criminals, termed collectively as anti-coalition militia, otherwise known as ACM. These groups shared a common resistance to the country's unification and the growing presence of foreign entities. And with the objective of ensuring successful elections in Kunar, military operations in the region were primarily focused on disrupting ACM activity. These operations employed diverse units and operational frameworks to achieve this goal of maintaining a secure environment for the electoral process. Deployed to Regional Command East, the 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines faced operational challenges due to Special Operations Command doctrine. Barriers included the lack of intelligence sharing with the battalion and non-disclosure of impending raids by Special Operations units. To address these issues, the Marine staff developed an operational model that integrated Special Operations forces into their activities. Emphasis on activities. Implementing this new model proved successful in disrupting ACM activity. The first operation under this approach, Operation Spurs, took place in Korangal Valley and utilized for the very first time Navy SEALs. Subsequent operations included Operation Mavericks and Operation Keltons, both following a similar pattern. The peak of 3rd Battalion, 3rd Marines efforts was the forced surrender of a high-value target operating from the Korangal Valley, ACM Commander Namuddin. Following Namuddin's surrender, ACM activity in the region significantly decreased, but resulted in a power vacuum, and a rapidly growing Taliban cell led by Ahmad Shah filled the void, bringing mayhem back to the region. And by May of 2005, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines arrived in Regional Command East, relieving 3-3. Upon their arrival, 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines aimed to maintain the operational tempo set by 3-3. Major Thomas Wood, 2-3's operations officer, structured a 5-phase operation to take down Shah, dubbed Operation Red Wings. But before we get into the action, a quick word from today's sponsor. In a world filled with narrative,
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common.
propaganda, and monetized journalism, reliable news sources are becoming few and far between. That's why today's video is brought to you by Ground News. They collect news stories from over 50,000 sources from all around the world and organize related stories into one convenient place, allowing you to swipe through different headlines for the same exact story, check which outlet is biased and which isn't, and determine how factual these sources actually are. Last year, Al-Qaeda's leader was killed by a drone strike in Afghanistan. You may have seen an article or two. On Ground News, we can see more than 500 articles were published, and its coverage came from across the political spectrum. A far left-leaning mixed factuality source emphasizes Biden orders the drone strike, while a right-leaning high factuality source claims the killing is long-sought justice. These unique features allow you to contrast stories and get the full picture. If you want to keep up with geopolitical events, you can use my link, ground.news/Popo, and receive 30% off. I'll leave a link in the description down below. New intelligence, both human and signals, revealed that Shah operated from small structures near the village of Chikal on Satalasor Mountain in Upper Korangal Valley, approximately 20 miles west of Kunar's capital. Utilizing imagery from a drone, on June 17th of 2005, IED production was identified within Shah's structures. Shah and his men were linked to over a dozen incidents against American, coalition, and Afghan entities, including IED strikes and small arms ambushes. The plan was to conduct the operation in late June, during low lunar illumination. Similar to 3-3, 2-3 aimed to employ Special Operations Forces assets for the op, and the operation garnered the interest from SEAL Team 10 and SEAL Delivery Vehicle Team 1 and 2. The operation was structured into 5 phases. Number 1, a Navy SEAL reconnaissance and surveillance team would insert into the region, observe Shah and his men, and guide the direct action team for Phase 2, of which an additional SEAL team would conduct direct action on the ground and capture or kill Shah and his men. In Phase 3, Marines alongside Afghan National Army soldiers would sweep the surrounding valleys. Once stabilized, the Marines would then provide aid to the region. And in Stage 5, depending on enemy activity, the Marines would either exfil or remain in the area. The SEAL reconnaissance team consisted of Navy SEALs Danny Dietz, Matthew Axelson, and Marcus Luttrell, all led by team leader, Lieutenant Michael Murphy. On June 27th, the team was inserted atop Satalasar Mountain.
Twisting, this is Dragon 15 checking in with you. Flight up to A10, holding south 5 miles at Angel 10, 1+00, time launch station.
Several MH-47 helicopters executed several decoy drops to confuse potential enemy observers.
Time launch station. Load up with Mark 82s, 1,200 rounds apiece.
Luttrell, Axelson, Dietz, and Murphy made out on foot through the valley. And as the sun rose, the team located a pre-designated covered overwatch position to observe the areas of interest. But suddenly, the team encountered a group of local goat herders. With no other choice, the team detained the herders and were left to make a critical decision. They could abort the mission, follow the rules of engagement, and release the herders in the hopes they don't tip off the Taliban, or execute the herders. The men voted 2-1, with Dietz refusing to vote at all. Lieutenant Michael Murphy cut the men loose, and the team decided to carry on with the mission. The herders fled straight to the Taliban. Shah's men, a large force of over 50 Taliban, surrounded the SEALs and carefully positioned themselves atop the mountain's steep ridges. Once in position, the Taliban would launch their attack and ambush the SEALs from all three sides of the valley. Gunfire erupted from all directions, but the SEALs found success through their superior marksmanship during the initial attack. But soon enough, the onslaught became overwhelming, and they needed to move. In an attempt to make it to safer ground, the team voluntarily leaped off the side of the mountain, breaking bones, losing gear, and losing Danny Dietz in the process. As the men gathered themselves on the ground as best they could, they continued to fight, devising a plan to climb back up for Danny. Responsible for the team's communications, Danny sought open air to place a distress call back to the base, but before he could, he was shot in the hand and was subsequently killed by the enemy moments later. The men switched gears, realizing the severity of the situation. Lieutenant Michael Murphy, struggling to get a signal on the side of the mountain, crawled back up to the top, directly toward the enemy, while Luttrell and Axelson laid cover fire. Murphy then ran out onto an exposed cliff's edge, raised his radio, and got through, providing his unit's location and the size of the enemy force while requesting immediate support for his team. In doing so, Murphy was shot in the back, causing him to drop the transmitter, but he picked it back up and completed the call. Murphy returned to his cover position with Luttrell and Axelson and stayed in the fight until he succumbed to his wounds moments later. Marcus Luttrell was blasted into a hole by a grenade, becoming separated from Axelson. An MH-47 helicopter, responding to Lieutenant Michael Murphy's distress call, with 8 additional SEALs and 8 Army Night Stalkers aboard, arrived for extraction. However, the helicopter was struck by an RPG.
We have multiple personnel that's small.
Killing all 16 aboard. Marcus and Axelson, now separated, were completely on their own. Despite his injuries, Axelson made one last stand, depleting all of his ammunition, resorting to his sidearm, which he used until he was killed by the enemy, only after taking 4 more with him. By this point, 35 Taliban have been killed. And Luttrell, the lone survivor, stayed in the fight until he was blasted over a ridge by a grenade and knocked unconscious. Wounded and with shrapnel in his leg, Marcus Luttrell crawled for miles, licking the sweat off his body to survive, until he found a pool of water. A timber truck driver named Mohammed Ghalab found Marcus and took him back to his village. Unsure if Ghalab was Taliban, Marcus was preparing for his death, but Ghalab was an ally, and the entire village protected him under an ancient moral code that you must not only shelter and feed a wounded loner, but also protect him against his enemies. Gulab got the shrapnel out of his leg, and 5 days later, took a handwritten message to a nearby American base, informing them of Luttrell's status and whereabouts.
We all just ants up on a hill. Digging, working the earth till we get our fill. It's up and down and into the light and into the dark.
All these wonderful people who died, it seemed senseless. I don't mean to disrespect in any way, but it seemed senseless. All these wonderful people who were killed for an op that went wrong.
We spend our whole lives trained to defend this country, and then we were sitting over there by this country, so you're telling me that because we were over there we were told by our country that it was senseless and they died for nothing?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
That's what you said.
I was born to learn how to hold the line, and I was born to march from the beginning to the end of my life. I'll learn to kill, I'll learn to fight, I'll learn to die for another time. That I ain't seen yet. But that rain, that rain, that rain, that rain, she's coming. That rain, that rain, that rain, that rain, she's coming. I was born an ant, living up on a hill. I was digging, working the earth till I get my fill. Then it's up and down and into the light and into the dark, turning to walk along the start that I can't forget about. But that rain, that rain, that rain, that rain, she's coming.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this video, or maybe even learned something, be sure to hit that subscribe button. There's a lot more historical documentaries in the works, and you don't want to miss them. And a special thank you to everyone who made it to the end. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.